Welcome to the Sexy Freedom Media Podcast, a place to discuss pain, passion, and pursuits.
Let's get it. I want to feel alive.
Breathe.
Make some moves.
Protect the throne. This is Sexy Freedom Media Podcast.
Welcome to the Sexy Freedom Media Podcast. It's your host, Helen Edwards, and
January Liddell. Aloha.
Today we have an exciting guest. Her name is Cassidy Handle, and she's going to be talking about some really cool things about marketing, and especially for mompreneurs, as she likes to call it. So welcome, Cassidy. Can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. My name is Cassidy. I am also known as the Copywriting Mama online. I'm a copywriter and messaging strategist. I help mompreneurs, small businesses market themselves, everything from their social media to their email list to their website. I'm a writer, but a consultant when it comes to that kind of stuff. And I do it all from home. And for the past 2 years, I've had my little girl here with me. She just started school, and so we're taking it to the next level. But yeah.
Awesome. Well, Cassidy, we're going to just jump right in because that's what we've been doing with our guests just to get the party started. So we're going to have a little icebreaker here. And the question is, what digital marketing strategies are most effective for growing a business while balancing the demands of motherhood?
Okay. I think it comes down to marketing, but business too. I work with a business coach as of recently, and it has changed the way I operate. I think as a mom, you're so used to operating in just emergency mode, survival mode, get it done when you can, stay up late, wake up early, fit it in where you can get it in. And I really wanted to show my daughter that you can be mindful and intentional with your time. I want to be fully present. I don't want her growing up remembering that mom was just always behind a laptop and on her phone. And so I think it's so important to be intentional from every point of your content, how you post your content and when you post your content. As far as social media, setting aside time, I really lean on batching. So I write all my content on Mondays. It's my admin day. I record all my content and edit it on Tuesdays, and that's my forward-facing day. And it's done for the week. And when she's home from school, I'm not on my computer at all. I'm not clocked into work at all. And this is all allowed by systems. I won't give away my coach's signature course and signature way of doing things, but I will say that having order. I have ADHD, and it's easy for me to get distracted, scroll, and lose time. And the way I've been able to be the most impactful with the little bit of time I have as a mom is to have systems in place and know exactly what I'm going to do each and every single day.
Ooh, I like that. I'm a mom myself of young children, 15 and 8-year-old. And so I myself do time blocking. And the time blocking has helped me. And I'm really interested to know, as far as your content, because what I heard you say was that you do batch content or batch filming on Monday, or you film on Tuesday. So batch on Monday and then film on Tuesday. But what I'd like to know is, how do you come up with the content for your batches? Is that when you're brainstorming what to film for Tuesday?
So Monday picture, I use a platform called Airtable, and I have a whole template in there. And maybe if anybody in here wanted the free template, I'd be happy to duplicate it for them. And maybe you can link it in the podcast or something. But I go graphic, like plan the graphic, what the reel's going to say, whether it's a script or a text over B-roll situation. And then I write the caption, and it'll have the day it's going to be posted. Then the next day I record it. And if it's something like B-roll, a lot of the time I already have the clips, or it's just me typing at my computer. And then if it's a script one, it's a little bit more intensive to record. And I edit it. I have it saved in my drafts, but I do highly recommend, if you're going to put something in your drafts, also save it in your phone, because sometimes Instagram updates, you lose your drafts, and you would hate to lose a week's worth of content. And I use the same hashtags for the most part. I have some little funky rules about finding the right hashtags to use in your content. But as a professional copywriter, because I'm I say I'm chronically online. I'm like always in with the trends. I see things throughout the week that I'll save, like little funny audios. And then I'll go ahead and make a piece of content usually around that. I do want to mention too, I have pillars. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I have it's intentional. So one day is like an educational and tips day. One day is a transformation day. One day is a trendy, funny day, or a relatable, funny day. And I don't know remember what the other two are right now, but I always know exactly what kind of content I need to create, and I frame it around that.
That's really great that you have pillars. It sounds like you're very organized. And I think one of the things some people would probably ask out there is, especially as a mom to a young child or young children, would say, how do you find the motivation? Are you self-motivated? Is there a routine or ritual that you have when that kind of like boosts you or encourages you to get something done?
I would say, first off, Vyvanse. I am medicated for my ADHD, and so I do take medicine, and that's changed my life because a year ago, just over a year ago, the reason my business started was because I got fired from my job because I wasn't organized and I couldn't keep up with things. And it was devastating because I actually worked for a podcast as their manager, and I lost that job due to my inability to have energy and motivation. And so now that I'm medicated, I will say that that changed my life. I really encourage if any moms are like really in the thick of it. It doesn't have to be forever. Go get help though. If you're finding that you can't even get off the couch, you can't even log on the computer, bring yourself to, you feel so withdrawn from the space, you can't even participate in it. Go get help first, because a lot of the times there's something deeper rooted. But now between that, I'm a big iced coffee drinker too. But on the days that are really hard lately, we've had, as you know, Helen, we've had a complete shit show at my house lately evolving. It's been hard. And some days I just don't even want to log on. But having those routines, and I have a dashboard, and it's like, I just know I've got to get through that list. It's not, I don't have to think about what I'm doing, just knock those things out one at a time. And grace. If you can't get it all done, give yourself grace, be forgiving of yourself, know that you are doing the best you can, and that even my coach says every week, not every single thing is checked off for her ever. She's never had a full week where every single box is checked. So it's normal. It's normal to not get through it all, but we try.
Thank you. That actually made me feel a lot better. And I appreciate you sharing
Bye, Val.
Vyvanse. So you shared Vyvanse and you shared, giving grace and that the list may not always be completed. So I appreciate you sharing that because that's important as a mompreneur. And I love that you say mompreneurs because there's a whole lot of us out there that are hustling. And there's a lot of us, me, myself included, really do not know how to create that compelling content that resonates with our target audience. And so, what, in your opinion, how can we uh, create compelling content that resonates with the target audience and build a loyal community about our brand?
Yeah, I'm so excited you asked about this one because I think it really comes down to the messaging. Forget the trends, forget following somebody else's 30-day content plan, forget any of what's working for other people because other people are not you. You need to hone in on what your gift is and what transformation you're offering. I always tell people to pick one thing. I know for moms especially, we want to sell Oliveda and we want to start a VA business and we want to do 100 things at one time. Pick one thing, get really good at that thing, develop a community that trusts you about that one thing, and then branch out. And that's not to say you need to build a personal brand. So like I talk about things that are important to me, like I love Jesus, I love guns, I love talking about neurodiversity and having ADHD and just getting through life with that. But ultimately it all comes down to that's building the trust, right? Because maybe somebody likes guns and they don't even know what a copywriter is, and we have that one thing in common. Pulling people in based on the things we have in common, and then keeping them around for what my offers are, which is maybe they won't do business with me, but they might send somebody to me. And that has happened time and time again of people just, and then being authentic in your DMs, right? It can be stressful to get to your DMs when people comment and you post something and they're like, I love that. You just want to heart it and move on. But I think building those authentic relationships where people feel really seen by you and they feel like, oh my God, I can't believe she made the time just to like get back to me or ask questions. I always say, ask people questions. Ask people questions, be interested, even if you don't feel interested, you're tired, it's been a long day, you never know what the conversation will evolve to. I know that some of my best friendships have been from clients from social media. And so messaging first. And then I always say, have a go-to document that clarifies who your target audience is. Your target audience is not everybody. It's not even a whole entire age bracket. You need to get down to the income level, the age bracket. Where do these people hang out? What podcasts and content do they consume? How do they speak, right? Because you might be a level 10 expert. I always say you're a level 10 expert and you're trying to sell to level twos. You need to tone it down a bit because when you're talking level 10, you're going right over their head and you sound like a know-it-all and nobody is really catching your drift and wanting your help. They're more like, cool, you know everything and I know nothing and I need to go get help. So to be the person that's going to help them, be the guide and let them be the hero.
That's such a good point. Be the guide, let them be the hero, because that really comes from a place of serving others and allowing them to be seen. So I really love that you said that. So me and January are authors, and I think a lot of our listeners are authors, and like you said, podcasters are out there too. So some of the questions they might have is how can authors use content marketing like blogs, newsletters, or social media to engage their audience and promote their books effectively?
The thing with blogs is blogs are really, really time intensive. To create blog posts, it takes a lot of time and there is a strategy behind it. It's not just writing a diary entry and posting it on your website. There's what's called SEO, search engine optimization, and that plays into it as well. And so if you're not an expert at that and that's not something that you have the time to learn all about, I would say leverage social media first. Make sure you have a website, right? And there's sites like Show It and Squarespace where you can go get a template and fill it in. Have a decent website. I really would recommend investing in having a copywriter and a graphic designer do that if you have the budget for it. Have a place where people can go that's your home, right? Collect emails on the way, have a place to collect emails, and then leverage social media because it's free. It's free, especially TikTok. I see a lot of authors right now telling like one of their stories in their book and then cliffhanging it off. And then the caption will be like, to finish the rest of the story or to read the rest of it, order the book, comment this, and I'll send you the link to get it. And I can't tell you how many of those I'm like, I would order, I don't even like fiction books, but I would order these books because I'm like watching the TikTok. I'm like, what happens next? What happens next? And it ends up cliffhanging and directing you to their website, directing you to the Amazon link to go buy the book. And so I think there are ways that authors can use that. And I don't think blogging necessarily is it because you're already spending so much time writing your books. Like, do you really want to pull that energy to write more long form content? Or do you want to be silly and have little spurts of energy and creativity where you can shorten it up and have fun with it? Because the last thing you want to do is burn out on writing. As a writer, you only have so much writing energy in a week, and you don't want to use it on something that's not generating money.
That's such a great point because blogs actually intimidate me because that just seems like I have to write much more than I need to. So I like the idea of reading my story and not finishing it up. That's such a genius idea. I'm actually not on TikTok. So for those of us that don't use TikTok often, what other platforms do you feel have captivating audiences?
I think for an author specifically, and it's going to change depending on what you do. Comes down to that target audience thing. Where do your people hang out? Are your people on TikTok? Is your target audience on LinkedIn? Which I would say maybe not LinkedIn unless you're creating educational books, but if you're doing fiction or doing like self-help kind of thing, I would say TikTok is one. Instagram Reels obviously is very similar, so Instagram definitely. And I would even explore Pinterest if I was an author, especially for someone like Helen that does the cards. Just so you guys listening know, she's got amazing affirmation cards that I just want to mention. But some place that would be great for that is on Pinterest. And you would just post, I'm new to it, so don't quote me on this, but you would post one card and it's really visually appealing. You know, Pinterest where everyone saves like things that are a mood or whatever. And that I think would be another good place for authors to explore.
You have such a good eye for everything marketing, Cassidy, like talking to you. I know you personally, we met through the Wyoming Women's Network, but listening to you just spit out all of this knowledge. And I got to see you do a presentation at the Wyoming Lunch and Learn with you and Kendra. And you're a wealth of information. Is marketing your background, or how did this passion come about for you?
I'm a chronically online scroller, and I always saw these people living this like dreamy work from home, be in my sweatpants all day with a laptop life. And I was actually a dental assistant. I was in the military, and then I came home and I was a dental assistant for 8 years. And then COVID happened, and things kind of changed. And I got pregnant in 2021, and immediately I was in school for technical management, which like what even is that? I don't know. But I was in school and thinking I can never, once I met her, I'm like, I can never go back to work. I'll never go back to the office. I cannot leave her with daycare, babysitter. My parents were gone all the time. They're firefighters. And so I was raised by a nanny who, it's funny, I actually spoke English or Spanish before English because my nanny and I spent so much time together. And I didn't want that for her. I wanted something different because I obviously went down my own path of addiction and things. And I felt like emotional presence is so important. So I finished school, wasn't clear on what that degree even really was, but I figured it's good to have it on a resume or whatever. I've always listened to podcasts. I've always kind of been aware of this like coaching space, mompreneur space, lots of MLMs and stuff like that. And I'm like, how can I do this without doing that? Because no judgment to people that do that, but you still have a boss, right? You're still working for a corporation. And if they go under, like everything you worked for is gone. And I wanted something that was truly mine. So I first I took a doula course thinking I wanted to be a doula. And the coach who teaches that course posted that she was hiring for a position. I applied and she actually didn't give me that position, but created another position. And that was that podcasting management position. And it was super fun. I wrote all her emails. I did all her social content, did all the scripts for the podcast, all the show notes, posted it every week on Buzzsprout or whatever. And then just my mental health, we had just closed on our house, got the best of me. I was not showing up well. She fired me, totally understand why, but I had to have money, right? Like he's now my ex-partner at the time. We're still good, we're friends, but my co-parent at the time, he doesn't make enough that I can just, we can just cut the budget and make it work. Like, absolutely not. We would lose this house if I wasn't bringing in some money. But I really stand firm on not leaving my daughter with anybody, especially at that time she was still breastfed. And so there was one conversation I had with that boss back before I got fired or knew I would. And she said, someday, if we're ever not working together, you'd make a great copywriter. No idea at that time what a copywriter was. And I just laughed it off and was like, what do you mean? We'll be working together forever. Like, no worries. And then when she fired me, I'm like, okay, so I need to go be a copywriter now. And I just looked up on YouTube. There's all kinds of free content. Whatever you want to do in life, go on YouTube. Like, don't go to Hulu. Don't go spend your time on Netflix. Go on YouTube and learn something, learn a new skill. That's always, what's going to pay off. So learned a little bit, immediately got on LinkedIn, immediately made a brand for on Instagram, an account. And then in December, that was in August of last year. So by December, I registered as an LLC, traded services to have a website done, and just slowly, like a lot of cold outreach is how I got a lot of the clients that I had in the beginning. And now I'm really blessed that most of my clients, there's internal referrals. And so I've stayed really busy between referrals and social media leads through social media.
Gosh, mad props to you. First of all, you are a hustler, and I love hearing that you went to YouTube. You remind me of my sister. My sister is the most brilliant woman that I know. She is just super intelligent. And so you remind me of her because she also learned through YouTube, reading books. And so she's now a director of marketing at Autodesk. In any case, she does a great job. So I hear, like, when you're talking, I hear her. She's also a wealth of knowledge. And it sounds like you put in your heart and soul because of your daughter. Your daughter was your why. And I know as an entrepreneurs, that's the driving force is our why, and your why is your daughter. So you put all your heart and soul into copyright and doing what you do best, and you're fabulous. I'm so happy that Helen invited you to the podcast because this is important. We have a lot of guests out there that do own their own businesses, and we are in the dark in terms of how do we do this? How do we go about creating content, and what are the systems in place? And you mentioned that earlier, systems in place and how vital it is to have that. I do not have a system just yet. And so I'm very excited to chat with you more, actually off camera. So I'd like to know, which digital marketing tactics should I prioritize to maximize my business growth with a limited budget?
Okay, the first financial spend you should make as a business owner is an email management system. I got Helen onto Flowdesk, which is my buddy. I love Flowdesk, especially if you have less than 5,000 email subscribers. I would say once you get up there over that number, you probably want to look at something like ConvertKit. But having an email list, because here's the thing, social media can change any day. Remember, we thought TikTok was going to be banned. We thought, sometimes Instagram and Meta go down and then you can't even post on your Instagram. If you own your email list and you own those leads, you always have people to sell to. And over time, they say that your email list should make you about $1 a month per subscriber. If you're selling to them right, if you're nurturing them right. So I would first get an email list in place, and not just that, because a lot of people just set it and forget it. You need to be putting energy into getting people to that list, whether that's going on your stories. Like, one of my daily tasks is to sell on stories. And part of my selling on stories is I rotate through my digital product, my freebie, and whatnot. You want it to get people on that list and to entice them. You can just tease them with the list. When you're on the list, you're going to learn this in my emails, or you can do the lead magnet route, which is what a lot of people are doing right now, very trendy. I have a lead magnet. It's 50 subject lines to get your emails opened at alarming rates. And it does really good. It's got to be something simple. It's got to solve one problem, one specific problem. Don't make it a whole course. Don't make it a whole big thing. Make it very specific, because that way people follow through and they get the result, and then they want to buy whatever you're going to buy because they've already trusted you. Next thing is you want to have an email welcome sequence in place. A welcome sequence is they get on your list, and without you having to lift a finger, they're going to get the dripped sequence. One email the first day, 3 days later, another email, 3 days later, another. And what those emails do, they're not sales emails. It's explaining your brand's purpose, a little bit of your brand story, maybe some details about it that you don't necessarily share on Instagram. You make them feel really special and really seen and like, oh yeah, this is exclusive. And then leading up to the last email can be a soft sell, but in that soft sell, usually I say, here are 3 ways to catch up with me. And I put a free opportunity, a low ticket, and a high ticket opportunity. So for Helen, I might do the podcast, the cards, and a one-on-one VIP day or a one-on-one hour-long coaching call. And that's how I would do it in hers. And so I want to have a welcome sequence, because even if you're sending that weekly email, they might sign up for your list and your email goes out a week later and they're like, wait, who is this person again? Like, I don't even remember where they came from, and they delete the email. So you want them to be introduced to you slowly over time. So email list is the first thing I'd spend money on when it comes to my business.
What's the difference between Flowdesk and HubSpot?
So HubSpot is an entire CRM. I have a CRM and it's Honeybook, and that's where I manage my clients, my projects. HubSpot, I believe you can have an email list. I'm not super well versed on HubSpot, so I don't know the extent of what you can do on there. But the Flowdesk would manage just the emails. It manages the emails. You can segment them, have them click something, and it puts them into a segment where you can go, podcast listeners, found me on Instagram, is at this point in their journey. So that way, when you go to make maybe a sales email, you have a list of people that already were interested in that product or that thing. And so Flowdesk has a lot of options, but it's also very user-friendly. HubSpot, I think, is a full-blown CRM where you can manage projects and clients and the whole nine.
I've used Flowdesk. Well, I'm using Flowdesk right now because you set me up with it, and it's definitely user-friendly. A CRM actually means customer relationship management. So it's just, there's tons of tools to help you manage, like you said, just manage your relationship with customers or potential clients.
Thank you. I do have a CRM, but I'm also interested in emailing, because that's the one thing that I've been hearing. It's whispering like you need to email, and I do have an email list. However, that's also very intimidating to me, because what do I write in the email? So that's actually another question, is and you mentioned there were 3 different emails that you would send, but how do I go about starting it, and what will catch our audience's attention?
A welcome sequence you write one time. It's usually 5 to 10 emails. I have a template kit that I sell. It's called Welcome in a Week, and it's 5 emails. And I've actually used it for myself. It's 5 emails. And then my weekly email, some people batch. My emails I really pour into. I have it weekly on that Monday admin day. I write and schedule it for Thursday. And I always want to talk about like what's going on. So I usually take one thing that's happened recently and the aha moment from it, the learning lesson, the transformation, what occurred from it. And I just whip it up. I wing it. A couple tips. Don't try not to use the word I too much in it, because when you just I, and then that can be a little bit like, okay, cool. You just sent me a letter all about you and what's going on in your life. You want to kind of take that transformation and plug it into where it would fit into their lives. So make you facing statements. That's important. There's a special time of day and day of the week. You probably want to send your emails on Tuesdays, and Thursdays are the best days. I do Thursdays at 9:15 a.m. has performed the best for me, but you want to test it out a little bit too. Maybe the first 8 weeks of emails, try a couple of different times and see when they got the best open rate. Your open rate is how many people opened the email. And then your click-through rate, like say you have a link in the email, and this is where the email management systems can track. They'll see what link got clicked and how many times. That's called your click-through rate. So average email open rates are about 20%, but I see anywhere from 50 to 60% with my list, which is way better reach than you're ever going to get on social media, which is another reason why you want to leverage that list, because 1% or 2% of your social media following sees your posts, but about 20 to 50% of your email list is going to read your email. So just good to know. Yeah.
What I'm understanding from everything that you're doing is really coming down and coming back to creating a system, as if you're going to a 9 to 5 job or a certain time frame of a job. You're scheduling yourself, you're making yourself accountable, and you're sticking to your tasks. And the most successful people in the world are people and leaders who have a system in place. So that's what I'm kind of getting from this. I want to ask about copywriting specifically, because you are a professional copywriter. Gosh, even the word's kind of challenging for me to say. So how can copywriting services specifically help small businesses or mompreneurs stand out and thrive in today's competitive market?
First, I want to say with the business systems thing, I always say if you want your business to pay like a business, you have to work it like a business. I think a lot of people preach the whole passive income thing these days and spend an hour a week and make 10K a month. And I just want to tell you that that is not the reality for 99% of people. You really do have to bring some kind of value to the table. The people who are the exceptions and who have hacked the system don't count on being that next person, and build something sustainable. Maybe someday you can operate in 5 to 10 hours a week, but I do spend anywhere from 15 to 25 hours typically in my business. And that includes the time I spend writing per week. So that is one thing I want to say to anybody who's looking to get into business is expect that you're going to, if you want it to pay 5 and 6 figures or even 4 and 5 figures a month, you have to work for that time. As far as copywriting services, I think a lot of entrepreneurs think that they need a VA first. Like you'll hear people be like, I'm so busy, I need a VA. But when you look at the tasks that they're wanting to pass off, a lot of the time they're copywriting tasks, writing emails, creating content ideas. I need to rewrite my website. I need marketing help. Well, one thing I will say when you look for a copywriter, while I do think it should be your first delegation, I think that because writing is a lot of people's headache, right? I was on a coaching call the other day and the coach asked us all like what our pain in the butt was. I was the only one who didn't say writing. I was like, I love writing, but graphic design, don't ask. So I think having a copywriter is important, but also somebody who is a copywriter with marketing consulting experience that can give you more advice. It's not just a pen for hire. It's not somebody who you're just going to say, I need you to just write this. Thanks. Bye. You want somebody who's going to look at your business from the ground up, from the brand messaging strategy all the way to your sales funnels, and be able to advise you, be able to push back when maybe you want to post something and they're like, that doesn't sound good. Or like, I don't think your Instagram bio is optimized and it could be better. You want somebody that's really experienced in the full spectrum of marketing and not just writing, because there's a reason behind all of it. There's a sales psychology behind all of it. And you could hire a copywriter, but if your offer sucks or is unclear, if your content's inconsistent, if some other things are going on, your website links don't work, you're not going to be able to, that copy is going to be a silly spend, because it's not going to have any ROI. It's not going to return on investment because there's other broken things about your system. So I think having somebody that is multifaceted and can be a marketing consultant, but also write your stuff as well. So important.
Oh my goodness, you dropped a lot of knowledge there. Thank you. So one thing that I heard you say is that copyright is vital. And I'm really excited to hear more about that actually, because I want to know, what is it about copyright and how do you, like, what are your processes in terms of finding the right words that will target a specific audience? How do you go about researching those words?
I do have my prerequisite when people start working with me. They have to go through my brand messaging blueprint process. It's a $1,000 investment, so it's a chunk, but it's a 10+ page document that they're getting back that I research and cover. It starts out, there's an interview involved, there's input from their part involved, because I'm not just going to pull it out of thin air. I need to know your why and who you're aiming this for and what problem are you solving. But it's 10 pages that covers your core values. You want to know your mission statement. You want to know your brand promise, your brand differentiation, like what is different about your brand compared to all of its competitors. brand story is really important, and not the story of how you grew up on a farm and blah, 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 blah. No, the story of the moment that your business was birthed, or the moment that that seed was planted in your heart and that you started to water it to harvest. Also, do's and don'ts, right? Some brands curse, some brands use emojis, little things that people would overlook. But I always say your brand should be you on your best day. If it is that you are a figure in your brand, some people have faceless brands, but when you are the face of your brand or you're highly involved in it and forward facing, we're women. We have a 28-day cycle. And at any given point where this person, like, I'm sorry, but I have 10 personalities. Like, you are not going to get the same me one week to another. But my brand messaging blueprint is the foundational piece that I can always go back to whenever I write emails for clients, whenever I'm writing for a client. I pull up their brand messaging blueprint. A lot of the time I pull, pieces of the copy from there. I give them a page of one-liners. And so I can remember who they are. Because when you're writing for so many people and taking on these different personalities, it's hard not to mix one person from another, especially when they're similar in brands. And so I can read that, and it goes through every single piece that I need to remember about who they are and how they speak.
I love that. I love that you have different, well, number one, I love that you said we have a 28-day cycle, because that's really vital for us women, because we are definitely not the same person day to day. I know I wasn't the same person yesterday that I am today. So I think the other thing that you said that I hear you saying is just pick one thing and go with that. And thank you for introducing us to the faceless brand versus the face brand. So detached brand versus, I didn't even realize there was a difference between the two. I'm not really intentionally looking at that, right? So as a person, because Helen and I both are our brands, our face, our image, is our brand. So for those of us that do have a face brand, how do we go about marketing ourselves in such a way that entices people to really follow us? I guess I'm trying to ask you, like, what words can we use? What words can we use? I'm not going to ask you about graphics because you told me not to, so I won't ask you about that one. But in terms of our words, let's say for Sexy Freedom, okay? So Sexy Freedom is our brand. So what words can we use to introduce to more audience?
Sure. I will say the difference is personal brand versus impersonal brand. Think Coca-Cola versus Poppy Soda, where Poppy Soda, we see the CEO, Allison. Why do I even know her name? I don't even drink this stuff. But you see her, she's always on their page posting social media. Coca-Cola, I couldn't tell you any of the executives' names. I couldn't tell you who it is. And so that's the difference between the two. But it does cost a lot more to make money for Coca-Cola. They've got a $3 billion ad spend every year, where personal brands usually are small businesses. They're people who want you to fall in love with the process, And so I will say, as far as visuals go, having a behind the scenes view, having, a day in my life of writing my book at a local coffee shop, or Helen doing a series. I'm going to write at a different local coffee shop every day this week. I'm going to take you guys with me. So anyone who's in Casper and interested in coffee is also being pulled into this journey of hers. She's taking them with her. She's taking them on a journey. So not only the journey of her book, which is amazing and crazy, but also taking them on the journey of her life and what it's like to create that book. Because then when you're reading it, you feel really attached. I know since I know you, Helen, reading that book, I'm like, oh, this is so cool, because I know the person that wrote this. And the same thing happens in social media. They know the person who wrote it. And I will say, it's not that there's a magic word to use. I think sometimes people get overly created. One thing I will say on the record, do not have ChatGPT or Claude write your stuff for you. Do not do it. Do not do it, because any of us that know anything about that stuff can see it. If it says unleash, ignite, rocket ship emoji, you know where it came from, and it's like a little icky, because I don't even want to consume it, because it's like, you didn't spend time on this. And so making sure that things are written the same way that you would talk and communicate. Like, for me, I'm more country branded, and so all my stuff starts with howdy and pal and partner and put them up and saloon doors burst open, because that's very on brand for me. And no AI is going to spit that out, right? And so people know that it's a person behind that writing. And same with you guys. Find the language that you already use. Helen's very like empowerment and very growth, and they don't have to be like crazy words that you have to look up in the dictionary. They're typically words. I think people overthink it sometimes. They're like, I gotta say the perfect thing that's going to get them to buy, and it's not always like saying the perfect thing. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. if that makes sense. And so marrying that with good branding, I always recommend you to hire a professional. There's a difference, by the way. There's copywriters, which are going to do your messaging strategy or your brand messaging. And then there's designers, website people that are going to do your graphics. Having both of those people on your team is so important because the graphic people are good at what they do, but they're not going to necessarily write great messaging. And having that merriment of the two to create just a really irresistible where people look at it, but then the words have substance too. Because have you ever been to a really pretty website and it's like, oh, this is beautiful, but then you read the words and they're like, best in class, number one in town, and it's like number one at what? If you read your headline on your website, before you scroll, it's called above the fold. You should know like what they do, who they're helping. Same with your Instagram bio to have it optimized. I should be able to go to your profile and know exactly what it is you do, who you help, what your name is, your brand name, and maybe bonus points if you have what I call a call to benefit. It's a call to action, but instead of saying act now, you shape it from the benefit to them. You want to write better emails? Click here today. You want more people to open your stuff? Click here, not download now because they're like, well, why do I want to download it? And so shifting it to a call to benefit is really important.
I've never heard call to benefit. I think that's fantastic. Thank you. I'm actually going to use that today. So thank you.
Yeah, I loved how you mentioned about people who use Chat GPT. I use Chat GPT for little points like titles and, just a little bit of help to get my creative juices flowing. But you're absolutely right. I can tell when somebody's using it on Facebook or their Instagram posts, and it immediately just deters me away because I don't feel like that's truly authentic. It's beautifully written, but I can tell just the way it's formatted. And that's one of the reasons why I stopped using it so much, because if I was kind of turned away from it, then I know others are turned away from it. And like you said, people can tell. In fact, just yesterday I read on Threads a woman who is podcasting, and she's actually using AI for her voice, and she's running all her podcasts in AI. So in other words, AI is she's having everything written for her on Chat GPT, and then AI is coming in and reading it off. And that's how she's promoting and doing her podcast now. And she was so proud. I can tell it was a proud moment for her. And she was saying, if you're not doing this as a podcaster, you're missing out on revenue. And all of a sudden, I mean, just like bees to honey, she was swarmed with podcasters just kind of not being mean, but just, I don't want to say they were attacking her, but they were just voicing their opinion and saying, there's no way this is authentic. If they knew somebody was doing that, they would never listen to it. And I gotta say, she probably lost a lot of respect for her. And I can tell she was trying to be kind, and she was responding with, well, I'm just trying it out. And I know exactly how she felt, because I also tried AI out. I wanted to see what it was like, and I actually got the same exact result. And from that point, I said, well, you know what? It's good to try it, and it's good to see the responses, because that's just saying, hey, people still want authenticity. They want the real you. So in a way, it's good to find out that that's what's happening, because I had no idea that was going on. And two, to see the response was people still want authenticity.
And I will say that there's not no place for AI in writing. I love using, and it's a part of my contract, in fact, that I will use AI for research purposes. I will never copy and paste anything from what the AI generates to my content. But I will say that we've been talking, I met with somebody who is an AI specialist, and their Claude, if you're going to use AI, I really prefer Claude over ChatGPT, just creates better in a better voice. But my brand messaging blueprints that I create, we're thinking of plugging one into Claude and saying, because a lot of people just say, write me this in this tone of voice. But you can actually train these things pretty extensively. It just takes a little more time, and you kind of have to get the paid versions. We're thinking of experimenting and just putting a brand messaging blueprint, because it's 10 pages of all of everything. It really tells you everything that they're going to know. Plug it in. And I'm not saying use it. I'm not saying, suddenly this guy's going to be me doing my work for me, but just to see what it creates, because I'd be curious. I've seen one other person actually online who is doing something similar to that, and she sent an email out that was written by AI and was very clear about that in the email. This email was written by my AI copy buddy or whatever. And it was really good, and it was funny, and it was quirky, and it very much sounded like her brand voice. And so I won't say that it has no place. And when people go, "Do you think AI is going to put you out of a job?" No, I don't think AI is ever going to put me out of a job, because AI needs somebody to train it. AI cannot operate on its own. It can't do an interview process. It needs feedback. It needs a give and take. And so I think it's got it's valuable for certain things, research, ideas. It's great for like titles, like you said, of things. But I will say that people can tell when a caption or when all your hooks or your scripts, like podcast scripts, are written by it. So
So tell us a little more about your, I think you mentioned you have a course. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I have templates that I sell for emails. And I guess this is would be part of marketing too, is I think everyone thinks they need to go make a course, and that's the best route to make passive income. I got to go make a course teaching people how to do this. Courses are very expensive to make. The videos, the hosting of it all. So I really recommend people for their first digital product to make something that you can give without needing anything from you, that you can make one time and deliver it over and over again. And for me, that's email templates. All my email templates are plug and play. And so right now I have Welcome in a Week. It's a 5 email sequence that is just plug and play. You can really change it as much as you want, but it's pretty much almost ready to go. It comes with subject lines and things like that. But I'm actually working on behind the scenes. It's called The Deal, and it is the Digital Entrepreneurs email library. So it will include Welcome in a Week, but it's actually going to be 30 templates of everything from announcing to your list that you have a new podcast episode that just dropped, reaching out for guests saying thank you, and here's a little coffee on me, a full library of templates. And I would love to tell you that a date that was going to launch. I have no idea. It's As a mom, I'm working on it in the nooks and crannies of my business, but I do think it's going to be really valuable at some point when it is able to get out to people. But yeah, I think having a product, if you're going to come up with something, because everyone thinks they need to teach something, right? Everyone's like, I got to teach a course. I got to have this whole community and a membership. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Coaching is a whole other beast. And just because you know how to bake sourdough, you can create a guide on baking sourdough or a masterclass or a video, but you don't necessarily need to go run and create a full-blown course, because it's going to cost you more upfront. And then you're signing up to be a coach too, which is a whole other career. So I think being able to differentiate the two and make something that's going to make you money up front. My templates, they go out and you've got them, and you can DM me and ask questions. It's not like I'm not happy to help, but I don't have to let them schedule a coaching call. I don't have to do anything else other than post a link, they go buy it, and it delivers to them automatically.
Work smarter, not harder. Yeah, I love that. So the email list. Okay, so we'll put that in the show notes where we can find your email list. I guess my next question for you would be, as a mom, how did you develop your system in such a way where it's very strategic, because I think I heard you say that you have a specific time for your daughter, that you just spent this amount of time with her. So how did you go about creating that system?
Yeah, so I will say the first year when she was home and before preschool, first 6 months she was breastfeeding of my business, it was hard. I had no system. I was booking things and telling people it'd be done next week, not knowing when I was going to find the time, staying up really late. My nervous system was just suffering. Everything was suffering, and the quality of work I was doing was just not great. I knew I needed to get organized about things. And so I was, taking notes, like the coach I said I'm working with now. I was just watching her on social media. She does a lot of free coaching through her stories. And I was just taking notes, like, okay, most people that are doing well on social media typically have some sort of routine. If you really pay attention to them, they're not just winging it day to day. And so I have theme days, and my daughter started preschool, like I said, this year. So I have a window that she's at school, right? It's about 6 hours that she's at school. And I figured out what my daily tasks are and put those aside, right? Checking emails, DMs, things like that. You give yourself 10, 15 minutes to do that. And then you get into your work for the day, whatever that day is. For me, it's admin day, forward facing day, deep work. And then Friday is CEO day. And so in between those checks, I do one check in the morning at 9 of all my notifications, and then I don't do it again until 1:30 when I'm about to leave to go pick her up and close the computer for the day. And in between there, I'm focused on that day's tasks, that theme day's tasks, and I do not deviate. And I will say it's hard, right? I want to check my phone. I love the dopamine hit of getting a DM or getting an email or getting a sale, but you have to separate from that to be able to get those big wins and that big movement in your business.
My gosh, you're so disciplined. So you don't even look at your notifications. I know when I see mine, I'm like, ooh, DM, I need to go check it. So what you're saying is you only check it 9 and 1, like right before you see your daughter.
Yes, and I don't have any notifications on as far as like if you DM me on Instagram, it doesn't like pop up on my phone screen or anything. I have every notification off except for texts and calls and FaceTimes because you never know if like my family's going to call or something. And I'll pause to do that. And usually I'll pause and kind of check personal stuff at lunch. But somewhere in the middle of there, I usually get up and go to the kitchen real quick and grab something to eat. And I'll do a little doom scroll is what I call it during the day. But for the most part, yeah, I try to stay off of it because just the way your brain hyperfixates when you pull out of your deep work, what you could get done in 3 hours of focused time with everything on silence is what takes people like weeks because they're just every 5 minutes somebody's responding to something and they're picking their phone up and it's like just let it be quiet for a little while. Just get really into your work and it's always going to be there. And people like the waiting a little bit creates demand. When you're that person who's like opens a DM and responds right away constantly, people are like, gosh, do you even have a life? Like you're just on your phone 24/7 and you don't want to be that person.
Yeah, Robin Sharma in his book, The 5 a.m. Club, calls it the digital destruction that will ruin your business and your life if you don't get control of it. And I really like that. But I like how you said doom scrolling too. And, somebody with ADHD, myself, no medication. I'm on tinctures, like I do holistic tinctures, and they help, but they don't help like the way it sounds like with the focus. So I deal with a lot of inner chatter, monkey brain. And people ask me, how do you stay disciplined? And it's rough seas. It's rough seas every single day. And I've come to accept that because it's my personal choice not to go do other things to help me because, we all have our beliefs and everything. But I love that you did mention that this is what you do to help yourself and that it is helped you. And for me, I use my tinctures and that helps me. But also one of the things that has helped me a lot is practicing active listening and just getting into the routine of that has helped calm my brain and help center me and help me focus more. But you mentioned writing. I'm an author and I deal with writer's block so much because of my monkey brain. So what you were talking about going to that meeting and everybody was saying writing, writing. And I think that you're absolutely right about that because everybody wants to market their business. Everybody wants their brand to grow. Everybody wants to grow their podcast and do all their dreams. But it does come down to how do I do that? And then everybody's brain goes blank. And if it doesn't go blank, it goes berserko on all the amount of information that is coming at them. What is it called? Overstimuli of information, of digital information that's out there. And I actually had no idea what a copywriter was until I met you. And then I was like, what is Google? What's a copywriter? Can you explain in the most simplest form what a copywriter exactly is and why you think people need copywriters?
Copywriting at its simplest form is, and I just want to clarify for the podcast, it's the copy WRITE or TING. It's not RI. So there's law copywriting, which is preserving things for legal protection. But the copywriting that I do is writing and storytelling with the purpose of making a sale. It's marketing essentially. I'm not writing a book. I'm not, even books can be copywriting if they're marketing books or if their purpose is to teach you something or to get you to somewhere. It's writing to get people to take action, whether that action is to buy something, the action is to join a challenge. And it's different than, creative writing. And that's why I really got away from writing blog posts. When I first started copywriting, I would just write whatever people wanted me to write. And then very quickly, I realized that it takes a different part of your brain to be able to just creative write and long form write than it does to whip up an email that, has a quick funny. I have a format. It's like a quick funny or a hook, and then goes into a quick story that features a transformation and then calls to what it was, the product, the service that led to that transformation. And then the direct call to benefit. Here's how you can get the transformation example item. And I think that being able to go in that short form, and I think my ADHD honestly really helps with it, because I know that you only have most people's attention for like this much time. And so most emails, you see somebody that just writes a really long newsletter and it's like, I love you, but I don't have time. Or I love you, but I don't have the energy. I don't have the focus. And so being able to put the most important information in the most condensed form that you can is so important.
Thank you so much, Cassidy. We can talk for hours with you because you are just brilliant, and I would love to pick your brain even more. So, with that said, where can we find you?
So you can find me on all platforms at the Copywriting Mama. It's the COPYWRITING Mama MAMA. I'm mostly on Instagram is my preferred platform. I'm also in as Cassidy Handle. But yeah, find me on Instagram. That's the place. Get on my email list and let's have a chat, because that's where all the tea goes down.
And where can they find your free, you said you had a free offer. Can you just state that one more time for our listeners?
Yeah, so if you want, it's called Fire in the Hole, 50 Unignorable Subject Lines that will get your emails opened at alarmingly high rates. And you can get that on my Instagram, obviously link in bio, or if you comment on any of my photos, the word fire in any kind of capitalization, it will auto send you the link. And then you can see my ManyChat Castbot, as I call her, in action. And I would love to have you guys over there and yeah, go take advantage of it. And one thing I will say is those subject lines also work as social media hooks. So if you don't know what to post that day, you can take any of those subject lines and make your Instagram post or your reel or your TikTok out of that. So it's a dual purpose product. We love multifaceted things.
Helen, where can we find you?
Wow. Okay. This was such an epic episode, and I can't wait till it comes out, and I can't wait to share it with everybody because there's such a wealth of information in the marketing field here that I feel like so many of us can benefit from. So thank you, Cassidy, again for coming on. My name's Helen Edwards, and you can find me just searching, Googling, or find me on Hell of a Journey with one L or Sexy Freedom Media all over Facebook and Instagram, and then Hell of a Journey 1 on TikTok. You can also get your copy of my book, Nothing Sexier Than Freedom, available on Amazon and Audible. And like Cassidy mentioned, she helped me come up with my first digital product. I'm so thankful. And you can get your digital Protect the Throne, Protect Your Mind, Body, Spirit affirmation cards by clicking my link as well. Thank you. And January, where can we find you?
First of all, thank you again, Cassidy. You're awesome. And I just learned a lot from you just in this short amount of time. So I'm excited to actually partner up with you eventually. So that's one on my list of things to do. You can find me on JanuaryLiddell.com. You can also find me on social media, Anchored Financial LLC. That's both Facebook and Instagram. And then you can find me at Alina the Honeymaker, both on Facebook and Instagram. I wrote a children's book about financial literacy called Alina the Super Saver. You can find that on Amazon. Otherwise, just Google me. You can find me there too. And on LinkedIn, January Liddell. Thank you all so much. And thank you to our listeners.
Thank you guys.
I hear.
Bye.
Want to hear more?
Visit us at sexyfreedommedia.com.